Welcome back to Hot Flashes and Cool Topics. Today, we're going to have a very interesting conversation about happy high achievers. And if you are a high achiever, you already know you're one of them. But we have a great conversation with author Dr. Mary Anderson. She's a clinical psychologist and she's the author of The Happy High Achiever: 8 Essentials to Overcome Anxiety, Manage Stress, and Energize Yourself for Success Without Losing Your Edge. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, ladies. I'm so excited and honored to be here with you all today. Hello to all the listeners out there.
Well, your book is so interesting. Bridget and I really enjoyed reading it. And I think, we're not going to lie, we see visions of ourselves in some of these essentials, maybe a little bit. But I wanted to start kind of right before you go into the 8 different essentials, and we'll talk about those. You talk about optimizing your thoughts for success, and you have like thoughts, feelings, behavior. Can you talk about that kind of linear relationship?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Great question. Such an important point is that our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors all directly impact each other. And that's so important to understand that relationship because then we can really optimize how we feel and how we perform, right? And so the approach I use when I'm helping patients is cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. It's empirically supported for the treatment of anxiety, depression. And what it is a two-pronged approach. We really work on optimizing thoughts. So that's the C, the cognitions of cognitive behavioral therapy. So we're optimizing our thoughts. And also we're going to optimize behaviors, right? So cognitive behavioral, so the thoughts and the behaviors. And why do we do that? Because they directly impact how we feel. So if you want to feel better, you have to work on improving self-talk and self-care. And what I've seen with my high achievers who really struggle with anxiety, chronic stress, self-doubt, worry, perfectionism, I'm seeing a lot of perfectionism nowadays, is that the ambition that they have is not the problem. Ambition is great. Ambition and drive are great. The issue is chronic, unhelpful self-talk. So those thoughts, they're having chronically unhelpful thoughts. And then in terms of behaviors, there's this relentless pace sometimes that high achievers have, relentless pace where they're not implementing healthy self-care behaviors regularly. And that's what's contributing to them feeling so much anxiety, stress, and worry.
Right. And you make it a point in the book that self-care doesn't necessarily it doesn't mean like going taking a bubble bath or whatever. It's really taking care of what's happening to you. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I love talking about self-care. And yes, we got to debunk this self-care myth that it means 2 hour long, bubble baths and week-long meditation retreats. And those are great if we have time for those. But how many of us really have time for that, right? So what I talk to my high achievers with anxiety and just all of us in general, what we need to do is prioritize self-care, but in a streamlined way so it feels doable. If we keep it feeling doable, we'll keep doing it, right? So what I've come up with, and I talk about in my book, The Happy High Achiever, is the 4 science-based self-care fundamentals that will give you the best bang for your buck. If you're going to be putting time and energy into self-care, and you're already feeling overwhelmed, you have an overextended schedule, we got to get really strategic, right? So there's 4 self-care fundamentals, and how I help people remember them is with the acronym SELF. So it's SELF. And I can run through those for you if you want.
Sure.
Okay. So S is sleep. So sleep, we want to aim for 7 hours or more a night. As adults, we need 7 or more hours a night. And why is that so important? I think we know how we feel when we're not getting good sleep. And research shows chronic lack of rest can really negatively impact things like memory, concentration, attention. But conversely, if we get good sleep, so again, that's 7 hours or more a night, it can really improve things like productivity, problem solving, memory. So there's so many benefits to good sleep. So sleep is essential. Then the E in self-care is exercise. And again, I think we know how important it is to exercise. Here, I like to really highlight that our aim is just 30 minutes or more most days. And I think for high achievers, sometimes we have this like go big mentality, this all or nothing kind of thinking that unfortunately can stymie our progress because I'll have patients saying, well, Dr. A, I need to go to the gym, 5 days a week. And if they only go 3, they feel like they failed, and then they just stop going to the gym. So if we can keep it really doable and really highlight the benefits of something like walking, I love to walk, and there's a super low risk of injury with walking. And what we know, it's a really efficient way to metabolize cortisol. So cortisol, our stress hormone, walking, physical activity is one of the most efficient ways to reduce cortisol. So it's going to be really effective for preventing and healing burnout. So that's the E. L of SELF for self-care is look forward. And this is the one that sometimes patients and people who have talked to about the Happy High Achiever book are like, wow, I didn't really think of this as self-care. But the L is look forward. And our goal is to have at least one pleasant activity to look forward to every week. Why is that so important? Because it provides a powerful mood boost when we have something to look forward to. Just the anticipation of something positive is powerful, right? Think about planning a vacation. Just thinking about the vacation, even if it's weeks away, gets you excited. So what we have to do is just modify that for our everyday busy lives and keep it really doable, because we can't go on vacation every week. It is helpful to know when our next vacation will be, but on the daily or in a week, just have one thing a week that feels doable, like planning a meetup with a friend or booking a massage. Or for me, sometimes I'm like, I'm just going to get my favorite takeout on Thursday night after a long day. And then in the days leading up to that, remind yourself that you have this great thing you're looking forward to. And then it's like double bang for your buck, right? You'll enjoy the activity when you're doing it and just when you're thinking about it. So that's the L. And then the last one of SELF is fuel. And this, again, we really know we got to fuel our body well with good nutrition and hydration, because it really will impact our cognitive performance. And sometimes I'll see people just going hours and hours without eating. And I'm like, guys, we got to help you make healthy eating convenient. So I'm like, keep snacks with you. If you're out traveling, bring some mixed nuts, a piece of fruit, a protein bar. So people, if they're studying for something, bring it to the library with you. If you're at your desk and you're feeling like you're swamped with meetings, keep something convenient right near you. So fuel your body and brain with good nutrition and hydration. Drinking water really does matter. So I'm like, keep that handy. And the other thing is to fuel your mind with quiet. Think about how much of our day we're just bombarded, barraged with information, problems to solve, scrolling on our phones. And so if we can just strategically take even a minute or two, more is great, but just a minute or two each day to do some deep breathing, which I teach to a lot of patients, to do things like getting out into nature, into green spaces or blue spaces. So, parks or just your backyard, or get near the ocean or rivers. We know from research it helps calm the nervous system. So just a little bit of a rest and recharge can make all the difference for our functioning. So again, that's SELF: sleep, exercise, look forward, and fuel. Those are the 4 science-based self-care fundamentals to prioritize to keep yourself energized so you can move forward and feel and be your best.
And what I love about that is that it's doable. Like you said, doable. They don't have to be huge, grand gestures, just like you said. Just like
Yes.
the look forward, getting something to eat, or even I'm going to go make me my cup of coffee and put this special cream in it or whatever. It's just, yeah, very doable.
Yep. And that's really the crucial part, is that we've got to keep it doable and stay flexible with how we implement it. So if someone schedules one pleasant activity that for some reason, like it gets rained out or they can't go to, I really encourage patients, adapt as necessary, stay flexible with things, just plan something else to do that day that you enjoy. And just like you're saying, it can be something little, like I make sure I have like hand lotion that I like to use, or my little stress management ball that I'm like, okay, I'm going to make sure that I plan that in for a day when I know it's going to be a long day of sitting. I'll be like, I'm going to make sure that that's next to me so that I can use that. That seems so small, right? But these little moments of self-care, these little moments, these micro moments of self-care, they add up. And the additive effect is what's really going to be protective of our energy. I always talk about protect your energy, protect your sparkle. We have to protect that energy so that we can continue to feel and be our best, because everybody out there deserves that. We all deserve to feel and be our best.
We've already learned so much, and it's only like 5 minutes in, but I think I skipped a point that I wanted to touch base on. The book is called The Happy High Achiever. How do you know when you're a
Mm.
high achiever? Is it, what do you look for and say, maybe I meet these requirements, maybe I meet these characterizations?
Ooh, that is such a good question. It's such a good question. I actually just did a presentation for my colleagues about helping anxious high achievers, so high achieving patients with anxiety. And I started with, how will we know we're a high achiever, right? And so this one, here's some tricky. It's a little tricky. So when I was talking about anxious high achievers with clinicians, I was talking to mental health providers. I said, diagnostically, we know what to listen for anxiety, right? So what we're listening for are things like, I'm really having a lot of worry about a lot of different things and feeling it difficult to control the worry. I'm feeling anxious. We know what kind of panic symptoms to look forward to. So that we know. But how do we know that the high achiever part, right? It's tricky, there's complexity, because often high achievers don't come in identifying as high achievers. Often patients will come in, especially if they're coming in for therapy. So it's a different intensity level, right? If patients are coming in saying, I'm really struggling with anxiety, they will say just that. They know, hey, doctor, I'm really struggling with anxiety. I'm struggling with worry. So that's helpful. It helps when they're, coming in identifying it, but they won't come in saying they're a high achiever, because almost a hallmark of being a high achiever is that people will point to what they haven't done or achieved yet. And so that's the issue I'm finding, is if people are coming in to see me, they'll say, but I haven't made partner at the law firm. So I work with a lot of lawyers. But I haven't made partner at the firm, or, well, I haven't run a marathon. So they'll point to achievements or goals they haven't yet accomplished. The second thing that I see, there's two main things. They point to goals they haven't achieved yet, or they point to how they don't measure up against someone else. They'll say, but my colleagues have higher titles than I do, at their company. Or they'll say, well, Dr. A, all my friends are married, and they own their own homes. I don't. I'm not a high achiever. So they'll point to ways in which they aren't a high achiever, rather than give themselves credit for all the things they've done. And I even asked my colleagues on the presentation, it was a live virtual talk, and I said, everyone out there, I said, we're not going to share our answers, but just reflect for a minute for yourself. Do you consider yourself a high achiever? And I could just see their faces being like, and I said, by virtue of just being a licensed mental health professional, we have had to pass a lot of tests and exams and accrue clinical hours and, face challenges and overcome obstacles. And yet I wonder, and there was like hundreds of people on the call, I'm like, I wonder how many of us out there stopped and thought to ourselves, well, am I really a high achiever? And really started focusing on ways that we aren't. And so that's something that I encourage them to think about, is that people likely coming in aren't going to necessarily identify as that. And while we can use external indicators like academic degrees as one measure of it, right? And indeed, I do work with a lot of high achieving patients who have JDs, PhDs, MDs, NPs. But I really encourage people to keep their minds open and curious, because high achievers can look like so many different things, And so I've helped definitely high achieving, ambitious patients who were first generation Americans, hadn't got their degree yet. They often were in college. So students would come in and say, Dr. A, I'm so stressed out. And they really were riddled with a lot of anxiety and stuff. And they'll say, I have so much pressure on me, Dr. A. I'm the first person in my family to go to college. And sometimes they were at community colleges, state schools, they were at Ivy League universities, whatever school, it didn't matter. It was just, there was so much pressure being put on them by their families and by themselves, right? And so what I encourage people out there is to focus on, what are the qualities of a high achiever? What are the traits and the issues that they'll be dealing with? And so actually in my book, The Happy High Achiever, in the introduction, I have a whole section called, Are You an Anxious High Achiever? And then I go through a list of some anxious high achiever qualities to start helping readers know, did you find your way to the right book? So things like, you're overwhelmed by self-doubt and your overextended schedule. You feel massive pressure to keep achieving big and impressive goals. And there's a whole list on one page of qualities of high achievers. And I think that's really what will help point to, is someone a high achiever? And I encourage people to look at it for themselves, because I often say as well, I wouldn't be the one to identify, is someone a high achiever? Just initially, I work with them and I see how are they thinking about things, and how are they looking at their life and their ambition and their goals, and do they feel like they identify with these qualities and traits?
Another thing that I love that you have in your book is when you compare excellence to perfectionism.
Mm,
That
That's number one, right? The
that
first
that
essentials.
just spoke volumes. Can you share the
oh,
importance of excellence over perfectionism?
absolutely. And I have to say, I've been seeing more issues around perfectionism now than I have in years. And I've been a licensed clinical psychologist for well over a decade. And especially recently, I've just seen this explosion of issues around anxiety when people are trying to be perfect. So, with perfectionism, what I'm seeing is that people are really tying their self-worth to their appearance, achievements, and performance. And I often encourage people, if you make your internal worth beholden to external validation, you will live with chronic anxiety and worry. So again, if you make your internal worth beholden to external validation, you will live with chronic anxiety and worry. And that's because people are thinking, I have to be perfect or else I'm a failure. I have to be perfect or I'm not lovable, worthy, or good enough. And what that is, it's all or nothing thinking. So, all or nothing thinking is a type of cognitive distortion. And cognitive distortions, unfortunately, are ubiquitous little beasts. We all do them as humans, you know. So sometimes high achievers are like, I'm doing a cognitive distortion, a thinking error. Like, how am I doing that? We all do them, right? So the issue is they're unhelpful thoughts originating from erroneous assumptions, misinterpretations, faulty beliefs. And all or nothing thinking is this really forcing a dichotomy where there doesn't need to be one. And it needlessly ratchets up stress and anxiety. I call it pressure cooker thinking. So, perfectionism, what it does, honestly, it just makes people terrified of making mistakes or ever looking less than the best. And that actually, kind of interestingly, it limits high achievers. So perfectionism limits high achievers. And so I'll often say perfectionism is the Achilles heel of the ambitious, because it's going to limit people in a variety of ways. First and foremost, it makes them hold back from trying new things. Anything they think they're not going to immediately look adept at or be proficient at, they won't even try because they're afraid, right? They're afraid if their self-worth is based on other people perceiving them as competent, they are going to be terrified of trying anything where they might appear foolish. And so they're going to limit themselves. They're just going to stay in this kind of small wheelhouse that they know they look great doing certain things. Also, I've seen people really overwork. They work themselves to burnout because they're going to like hyper focus on details and minutia. They're going to like triple check things for typos, sometimes where it's not really necessary. Like it's an email, but they're going to like triple check it. Well, if you're really busy, you can't triple check every email. And we got to learn how to prioritize, right? But sometimes high achievers, when they're really striving for perfection, they're trying to make every single thing they do perfect, which leads to the last way that perfectionism is really not helpful, what I call perfectionism fueled procrastination. When someone is tasked with a project, a presentation, anything that's important to them, they can start thinking to themselves, what if it's not as good as I want it to be? What if I don't get it right? They'll say, Dr. Ray, this has to be perfect. And so what happens is they don't even start because they're too worried. They're afraid that it's not going to be good enough. So again, perfectionism really holds people back. They're terrified of ever looking less than the best or making mistakes. Now, conversely, excellence allows for both high achievement and our humanity. Excellence keeps our standards high, right where we like them. It's not about lowering our standards. And sometimes when I'm working with high achievers, that's what they're really worried about is, well, you're going to, do you want me to just be soft and lazy and acquiesce to mediocrity and stagnation? No, that's not what we're talking about. I swear there's place for like self-compassion and high achievement. There is a way to be kind to yourself. And actually by taking good care of yourself, with good self-care and good self-talk, you actually are setting yourself up to succeed. And so I teach them that set your standards high, just be aware as humans, we are going to make mistakes and that it's okay. We don't have to like it, but we have to know that they're going to happen and that it does not in any way negatively impact our self-worth. That's really important that they get it, that it's not going to impact your self-worth, that you still are going to have people who value you, you're still worthy, and that actually our mistakes, failures, fumbles, flaws, we can use those to really learn from and can catapult us actually forward because we can learn from and use them as content for growth. When we make a mistake or when we do something less than we wish we could have, we can look at it and say, what do I wish I did differently next time? Not just berate ourselves for not being perfect.
As a recovering perfectionist, still process. I
She's
can't believe
working on
you were
it.
saying stuff. I'm like, what's your
Oh,
point?
Colleen.
Should you not check an email 3 times? Is that not a good thing? But as a recovering perfectionist, I thought it was interesting in the book when you talk about excellence because I didn't know originally, I didn't know what you meant by that. And in the book, you say excellence is the pursuit of achievement while honoring our mental, which is happy, and physical, which is healthy well being. And I thought that was really clear for people because people are like, okay, well, what's the difference between being excellent and being perfect? Because we're putting them on the same platform and you're really not. So I thought that was a really good description in the book
Aw.
about that. It kind of hit home a little. Maybe Bridget would know that, like, because
I don't know.
a little bit of
I mean,
burden.
a little bit, but it is interesting because the whole procrastination thing really struck with me. Like I'm so nervous about how something's going to turn out that you put it off, and then you're rushed, and then it's not going to be excellent or perfect. It's really going to be a problem. And I know you also had the energy and your invest the ultimate currency, your energy, and I know you've touched on that as well. And then you also, I
Should stick
love
hands. I really want her to talk about
talk about
the
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
the number 5 essential, changing your shoulds to cans. Can
Oh,
you
I
talk
love
about that?
that.
Yes, absolutely. And I just have to say thank you so much, ladies. I love to hear that the content in the book is really resonating with you and that it's feeling practical. That's really one of my major
Yes.
goals is to provide practical, actionable science-based strategies and skills. Because when patients come in to see me, they'll say, all right, Dr. A, like bullet pointed for me, and these are JDs, they're lawyers, they're doctors, they're researchers, there's grad students. And so they just need something practical in their days to help them move forward, right? And so really clear, concise, practical information. So I'm so glad that it's resonating with you. And I love talking about shoulds. Oh, hallmark of high achievers, right? We should all over ourselves. And there's 3 ways that we often should. And I talk about this in the Happy High Achiever. We should ourselves, we should others, and we should situations. So when we should ourselves, right? I should be able to handle this. I should be doing more. I should be able to keep up. I should be going to the gym more. All the shoulds. How does that make us feel, right? So thoughts, feelings, behaviors, they all directly, relate. They all directly impact each other, right? So thoughts, feelings, behaviors. If we're thinking, I should be going to the gym every day. How does it make us feel? Not good, right? Like deficient. We often will feel deflated, actually less motivated. So paradoxically, the very thing we're shoulding about ourselves about, we're actually making it less likely that we're going to do that very thing because we're making ourselves feel bad, right? We're going to feel guilty. And when we're feeling demotivated, guilty, bad about ourselves behaviorally, does that move us forward? Not usually. And certainly not sustainably if we're not feeling good about ourselves. So that's where with the shoulds, I decision tree it out with patients. So if they're like, oh, Dr. A, I should be going to the gym more, I'll ask them, do you want to go to the gym? Do you think it would be helpful or do you think you must? And I love it because my patients are so candid and they're like, I definitely don't want to. And I'm like, okay, so it's something you want to. Do you feel you must? No. And I'm like, so what is it? And they're like, well, I just think it would be helpful to go to the gym. And I'll say, well, why? Right. So if you stay curious with why you're telling yourself a should, that's what's going to actually help unstick you. The should will just keep people stuck behaviorally and feeling bad. about themselves. So I kind of drill down to like, why are you telling yourself this? And they'll say, well, I think it would be helpful. I know that exercise helps, you've talked about stress management. I know it's good for my health. And then we can really get into the nitty gritty of effective problem solving and goal setting. And I'll say, so what I'm hearing is that you think it would be helpful to exercise. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, do you need to go to the gym to exercise necessarily? Well, no. All right. So now we're getting somewhere. I'm like, well, what could you do? Let's see. And so we'll brainstorm. And it often is just bring your sneakers to, work and go walk for, 15, 20 minutes at your lunch break. Or I have a lot of people getting, at home gym equipment, but something like a treadmill, or even now they have like walking pads, which is like a treadmill, but smaller footprint. So I have people finding ways to do walking or exercise that's more convenient. And often high achievers will be like, but does that count? I don't have to go to the gym. And I'm like, you really don't have to go to the gym. And in fact, if you're not going to the gym, that's not actually even a helpful kind of goal to set for yourself, because you're not doing it and you're just going to feel worse and you're going to kind of feed into that negative feedback loop. So I'll say, what is it, what do you feel? What does it sound like to you if you went for a walk twice this week? Just go for a walk twice this week outside. People say, I can do that. So again, it's turning a should of I should be going to the gym every day to I can go for a walk outside twice this week. Yeah, I can do that. And I know, again, for being a clinician for over a decade, I can tell the difference when someone's like, I'll try that, Dr. A, versus I can do that. So I work with them to get to the point where they say, I can. And sometimes as high achievers, we think, well, that's not enough. And that's the issue, is we're really overshooting with our goals and it sets us up to fail. So I'll encourage patients to identify that all or nothing thinking and poke holes in it, see why it's not necessarily true, it's not useful for them. And to know with goal setting, a string of single steps completed is much better than a large leap never taken. So that's how we turn shoulds to cans in terms of when we're shoulding ourselves. And then I also talk about when we should other people, we usually just end up feeling resentful, which again, thoughts, feelings, behavior. If we're thinking to ourselves, he should be, taking their trash out every day. They should be easier to talk to. This should be, they should be doing this. How are we going to feel? Usually resentful, frustrated. And then behaviorally, it's not going to help create optimal interpersonal communication. So there's definitely ways that I talk about in my book, how to help ourselves not should others, because again, it's usually just going to keep us stuck and not feeling good. And I also talk about in the book how to overcome shoulding situations when we're, kind of navigating the challenges or what I call the swamps of life.
Yeah. Yes. And another one of yours is number 2 is the oh no, it's is it number 3? It's the uncertainty versus curiosity, which, when we're uncertain about something, and which we're going to face uncertainty all the time. If something's new to us, we're uncertain about it. But I love the whole thing of switching to curiosity instead. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. How many of us haven't just sat and said, like, what if this doesn't work out? What, like, what if they don't like me? What if it doesn't work out? And there's this, it sounds simple, but just shifting to, I wonder. So this is a real concrete strategy. When you notice you're saying, what if it doesn't go well? What if they don't like me? I wonder what will happen next. I wonder what they think. And just highlighting the fact that, can we know what's going to happen in the future? No. So that's always the ace up our sleeve. I tell my patients, I'm like, this is the ace up your sleeve. If you're doing what we call negative fortune telling, so negative fortune telling is another cognitive distortion. It's one of what I call the troublesome trifecta. The 3 most common cognitive distortions that I've found plague high achievers and are real obstacles to excellence for high achievers. Negative fortune telling is when we are predicting that something won't go well that hasn't happened yet. And so in that moment, it's really important to just raise our awareness. Oh, I don't have all the information yet. I can't know what's going to happen. And then we move from awareness into action by saying, what could I focus on? What self-talk could I focus on that would help me move forward? And again, it can be as simple as going from, what if it doesn't go well? What if I fail the exam? Just shifting to, I wonder what will happen. I wonder what's on the test, like figuring ways out to help yourself move forward, because it's much more helpful if I'm helping like grad students with their exam, thinking, what if it doesn't go well? And very quickly, what if it doesn't go well? Can very quickly jump to, it's not going to go well, Dr. Ray. I'm going to fail my exam. So instead, we shift them to, I wonder what will be on the test. I wonder if I can have a study group. I wonder, what books I can read or articles I can read that will help me feel more confident about what's going to be on the exam. So we just shift from a what if to I wonder. And just by staying curious, it can literally free up how we feel. So I often say, stay curious about uncertainty, and then you can be hopeful about possibility and get excited about opportunity. And it's a 3-step process I talk about in the book to help people when they're navigating uncertainty. It can feel really scary, and ambiguity can feel scary to all of us. So knowing how to really help boost our calm and confidence during times of ambiguity and uncertainty is such a powerful skill set, because especially in today's world, we have to know how to face the uncertainty that we all are facing every day.
And you talk about the trifecta, which you said mind reading. What would be the other two parts of that trifecta?
Yes. So the troublesome trifecta, the first one is all or nothing thinking. And we hit on that one with perfectionism. So all or nothing thinking is forcing a dichotomy where there isn't one. So black and white thinking. So things like, I need to be perfect or I'm a failure. Or something like, if I hear patients say like, everything, everyone needs to be totally blown away by my project, Dr. A, so everything, everyone, or in the other direction, no one, always, never, any of those really extremes, those absolutes, when we're forcing our thoughts into absolutes, almost always life is not lived in the absolutes. It's lived more in the middle, in the gray, right? So all or nothing thinking absolutely can help, can hinder high achievers striving for excellence. So all or nothing thinking. The second one of the troublesome trifecta is the jumping to conclusions. And jumping to conclusions comes in kind of two flavors. It's that negative fortune telling. So it's not going to go well. I'm not going to get into the university I want, or I'm not going to get the job I want. And then the other kind of flavor of negative fortune telling is mind reading. It is that like, they're not going to like me. They're going to think I'm incompetent. So that's the mind reading, where we're assuming we know what other people are thinking about us, which, can we ever know what people are thinking? No. I often say the only way we know what people are thinking is if they tell us, and they tell us the truth. So that's the second one, is the jumping to conclusions. And then the third one we've hit is the should statements. And that, again, just really makes people feel badly and keeps them stuck behaviorally. So that shoulds, and I hear all the time, I should be farther ahead, Dr. A. I'm so far behind. And I hear that from people at all varying ages too. So in different ways. So that's something to absolutely be aware of. So all or nothing thinking, jumping to conclusions, and should statements, that troublesome trifecta, where we really, our goal is we want to catch and conquer those so that we can overcome the anxiety and help ourselves manage our stress more effectively. So again, we can feel and be our best.
Another thing that really was important that was in the book, and I was taking notes. So, but it was about relationships with other people. And I'm trying to find my notes, but it was kind of like your list of, I forgot what you called it, but it was the people that you want to be around, and then the people that you don't. What was the word for it? Because I can't find it in my notes.
Yes. Easy people.
Easy people. Yes.
Yeah, probably easy people, right? So
yes.
I always say it's not about judgment. We're not here trying to judge other people. That's not our job. But it's about being discerning, right? So having discernment and having basically an awareness. How do certain people impact your stress levels, your thoughts, your feelings, your behaviors? So easy people are those people you just feel like, you can be yourself around, and you don't have to prove anything. You're never trying to defend yourself around them. And they inspire you, encourage you, uplift you, or you just feel really relaxed around them, content. So that's easy people. And strategically, we want to maximize how much time we're around easy people. Life is hard enough, and there's enough stressors going on personally, professionally, and in the world. We need easy people. And that can be like a close friend, a family member. It could just be a barista at your local coffee shop that you have like a fun conversation with about sports, or, like local music scene, or whatever it is. But just that there's those people that you can like just look forward to running into and having conversations, even if it's just someone who's at your gym. You're like, oh, it's nice to see you. You know how nice that feels when someone says that to us. So we can be that for someone else. So then the less or uneasy people would be the people who, you just feel drained and depleted after being in their presence. And you're like, oh man, I bailed them out again, kind of, or like, oh man, I just feel like they don't understand me. And it's like there's frustration or draining of energy. And also sometimes I'll find, so there again, thoughts, feelings, behaviors. So sometimes you leave saying, I'm just like not in a great mindset after seeing them, or I'm just feeling depleted, or behaviorally, when you were with them, you engaged in behaviors you don't usually. So people say, oh, I find there's certain friends, Dr. Ray, like we just sit around and gossip, or like we complain together, or overeat, or gamble, or are more sedentary with, or whatever it is, but there's behaviorally something. So again, we're not blaming anyone else for our own actions, but we're just keeping an awareness of, are there certain friends who we, find we're doing really healthy behaviors with, and then maybe people that were around that were kind of, we notice we tend to do less healthy behaviors around, and really using that to our best interest of saying, okay, how do I optimize and try to minimize or moderate exposure to people who aren't helping my energy and stress levels or health behaviors, and maximize my time with people who are. And so it's really getting strategic, right? Like our time and energy, I feel like for myself, as I've gotten older, like I've really become really clear that like time and energy are just such important resources. And so getting really strategic, really mindful, right? Being thoughtful about who do we want to spend our time with. And again, it's never about judging other people. It's just really about honoring your energy. It's honoring and protecting your energy so you can be your best out in the world.
That kind of runs right into the last essential, which is your legacy, creating your
Mhm.
legacy. Can you talk about how we need to really choose wisely about what we do and who we spend time with and creating a legacy?
Yeah, absolutely. I love talking about this as well, is being strategic. You can use strategic, intentional, mindful, basically just really being thoughtful about what you want your life to be about, right? And having that be based on what you value. And so sometimes I'll sit with people and say, what do you value? And it's okay if it's hard to identify and, right off the bat, but I'll have people think about, what are the things that are important to you, right? Is it justice? Is it truth? Is it beauty? Is it family? Is it friends? Is it health? Is it continuous learning and growth? Is it a spiritual life? Is it, having adventure in your life and traveling and learning? And so I always say, you are the expert on you. You're going to know what's important to you. And so I just want to help support that. I always tell people, I am with you and for you. I want you to gain clarity about what you value, what is meaningful, purposeful for you. And then we're going to work together to help you honor that with your daily choices. And it's through our daily choices that we create that bigger legacy, right? There's this great quote. It's the best way to take care of the future is to take care of the present moment. That's not me. That's Thich Nhat Hanh. That's Thich Nhat Hanh. He was a Buddhist master. He was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize by Martin Luther King Jr. So Thich Nhat Hanh, a very
So you're
wise
not
man.
taking credit for that.
I
Credit,
am
change,
not.
making it clear. I did not write that.
I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
not taking credit, but I just thought it was so like imbued with wisdom. Is the best way to take care of the future is to take care of the present moment. So in this present moment, what is valuable and meaningful to you that you want to put forth your time and energy that again is so precious, it's so valuable? What do you want to focus that energy and time and all your resources towards moving forward? What goals are those? And I love working on that with people as well, because then they're setting goals for high achievement that really feel fulfilling to them. And that's what's going to keep us energized. If you're using your energy towards meaningful goals, it's this cool thing that I've found. If we use our energy towards meaningful goals, this cool thing happens. We get re-energized. If you're working towards goals that you don't really care about, like when I've seen people work in jobs that they really hate, it's really tough because they might, achieve the goals that people are putting forth for them, but they're not meaningful or valuable to that person and they feel drained. But if you are doing work that you are passionate about, like for me, so as an example myself, I love helping people. It's my thing. My family friends know my major goal in life is to help as many people as possible. So I'll do whatever I need to do to go try to help as many people as possible. And I have to say, podcast, presentation, books, all these things, helping patients, it's just like re-energizing. It's like a boomerang, like the energy fills back up. So it's like almost like a secret, like you use up your energy to move that meaningful goal forward. And because you're moving forward this meaningful, fulfilling goal, you get re-energized when you see that it's out there and helping people. And so it's this really just awesome, it's just this awesome experience of working towards a meaningful goal and how it will keep you energized for sustainable success. And that's really one of the keys of my book is I want to help people achieve sustainable happiness and success, not just, a momentary achievement, but that drains them and then they burn out.
Right. And another important thing you bring up is you can't be happy all the
Yeah.
time forever. And that really is something, because people put that up on a pedestal and say, my goal is to be happy. But if you were at 100% happy 100% of the time, that's just not going to happen. Could you talk about why that is really unattainable?
Oh, I love this. Thank you so much, Bridget. Yes, we got to keep it real. I'm like, we got to be real, which happiness is wonderful. But they've actually shown in research that if you really focus on your moment to moment happiness, this interesting thing happens. It's inversely related to happiness, because what happens is if you're like, am I happy? Am I happy? I should be happy every second. Then it's going to make you unhappy, because you're going to think, well, I'm not meeting the happiness goal. Especially if you're a high achiever with that all or nothing thinking, you're telling yourself, I should be happy all the time, right? And I should want to be happy all the time. And I should be able to be happy all the time. But what research shows actually is that doing happiness promoting behaviors is what's actually associated with more happiness, right? Because we have control over the behaviors we're doing. So if we're doing happiness promoting behaviors, like the self-care I talked about, the SCLF, sleep, exercise, look forward, fuel, if we're cultivating healthy connections by really prioritizing and maximizing time with easy people who inspire us, uplift us, energize us, if we're practicing gratitude, which I love talking about the benefits of gratitude that we know from abundant research can be really happiness promoting, that's what's going to be most helpful. And so if we're erroneously believing we should always be happy in every moment, that's actually going to detract from our happiness. And it's just not the truth, right? I mean, when we look at life, there are going to be swamps. And I talk about this in a few of the different chapters, but certainly in Essential Number 5, Transform Shoulds to Can'ts, where we're going to have what I call swamps of life, moments or times, seasons of kind of uncertainty, challenges, difficulties, times where we're like, I never thought this would happen. I don't know what comes next, Dr. A. And so in those moments, maybe after a breakup or you lose your job or a loss of a loved one or moving to a new city, any change, even if it's seemingly a positive change, like you get a promotion or when people first have kids or different things, positive stressors, but they're challenges to navigate. We need to normalize that there are going to be those challenges in life and then equip people with the tools for how to navigate those to help themselves through those moments. And I talk about in Essential 5, EAO, empathy, acceptance, optimize. So I give people a compass to help them through the swamp. So check out Essential 5 if you want to learn more about that. But really knowing that we're going to face challenges in life, and that something I tell my patients all the time, and that they'll nod their head and just be like, oh my gosh, why is this? It's some like cosmic consolation prize. That through the swamps of life, that's where we actually garner knowledge and learning and growth. And that's where we gain our courage. I call it earned courage, right? That's where we earn our courage. The Disneyland days of life, those days of relaxation and just doing something fun, those are important. But do we grow our courage on Disneyland days? No. Right? We know through traversing the swamplands of life, that's actually where we're going to grow the most. It doesn't always feel nice. That's why they call it growing pains, truly. But I think if we normalize, you're going to face swamps in life, but you can do this. And I often tell my patients, you got this. I believe in you. You're not alone. We can do this. And so once you normalize, there will be swamps. There are going to be challenges. There are going to be times where you're like, I don't know what to do next. And you're in those moments of uncertainty that you will make it through those swamps. That's so important so that they're not erroneously believing, well, I'm failing at being happy. And I think if we hyper focus on this happiness goal of, again, I should be happy every moment, that's actually not going to be helpful for people.
Such a great conversation and such a great book. Dr. Mary Anderson, thank you so much for coming on to talk about the Happy High Achiever. We'll have links in the show notes for the book and for your website as well, because you have a lot of resources on your website to talk about. But we really appreciate your time today and for the book.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun. And thank you to all the listeners out there. I hope you enjoy the book. You deserve to take good care of yourselves. Take care, everyone.